Oh, beautiful, magnanimous souls. Beautiful, magnanimous souls. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? The star. It's cloudy in between the sunset. The stars peeking through. Yeah. I wonder if you can. No, I have to like. Oh, there we go. I think it'll come through here soon. So magnanimously beautiful. Quite a deep dive. I went today, like several times, in different ways, energetically. And a lot of work I did. Completely dedicated to the work so that I can be a clear channel of the highest energetic frequency of information that I can share with you to help you self-reflect in a non-judgmental way. Absent judgment. Self-reflection is absent judgment. I mean, it takes time to be absent judgment when you self-reflect, because the first thing that you want to do is judge yourself. If you made a mistake on something, you want to blame something else so you don't have to judge yourself. Because I don't know if the clouds are going to end up covering it or what. I can get this. There we go. I think I got it now. So, allowing new opportunities to be able to self-reflect, because self-reflection allows us to expand in our awareness of self. But you can only be aware of your true self when you look at yourself absent judgment. And so it takes a little bit of time to be able to clear out the judgment perspective. And the sooner you, at least for me, the sooner you're able to connect more with your identity as a soul expression versus just human. Your soul expression is is an aspect of you of which that you invest time in to allow yourself to really understand more of all that you are through the eyes of your soul. You can use your soul as your gateway, per se. It's one way to word it, right? And there's many different ways to word things. That whatever wants to be spoken will be spoken for what's most beneficial for myself and all. So really late for on the train of sunset, like more sunset views, but I was definitely working past the sunset. So yeah, it's all about investing our time to focus specifically on the things that are going to elevate us the most. And elevation is definitely a pleasurable state to experience, because you are freed from the burdens of worry. You're free from the burdens of anxiety. You're free from the burdens of depression. You're free from the burdens of any mental, emotional state. That would normally cause you disharmony. What once was disharmony is... I can't get it. No, I'm just cloudy. So, if I wouldn't be messing with the camera right now, or the video, but I just want to capture as much color as possible, you still get the rainbow effect. Of energy. To help you clear and align your chakras during sunset time is a really good time to do that. Or sunrise. But all our opportunities are providing us. There's like so much I spoke of last night that wasn't recorded that may or may not want to be repeated or repeated. So it feels like words already spoken but not necessarily heard and captured, I guess. It was captured in another space-time continuum, but energetically placed through me, to be expressed through me. So, what does it mean to be limitless? And I speak of this, and I will continue to speak of this. It's always identifying the more in you that you have yet to discover. What more of you exists for you yet to discover? Because there's so much, there's no limit to all of you. There's no limit to all of you. So that means there's no limit to the discovery of more and more of you. So people that say, I already know me. Well, you know yourself from one perspective, but how about unlimited perspectives? In that journey of investing time in oneself, outside ego, it's ego identification, what roles you want to reassign your ego, new roles that are going to serve you for your highest good in a brand new way. Your ego was always meant to, be utilized as a resource in fight or flight moments. And we depend on our ego for every decision we make throughout the day. So many of the decisions we make throughout the day are in fight or flight moments, because that's what the ego is used to. But the soul perspective, which is quite expansive because there is no limit to the expression of soul. And so that discovery of what it means to build a relationship with your own soul, right? And there's, plenty of people out there that have invested that time already, but I found that as the most beneficial to relate to the expansiveness of my soul. A level of self-discovery that I had yet sought after. So now I'm going to place hopefully you can see the star through the clouds. Oh goodness. Otherwise, a time with yourself in a whole new way. Getting to know your soul, like befriending your own soul. Like, if you don't identify as who you are, as soul first, versus your birth given name and your parents and your story, just your soul's expression first, right? It changes everything. That alone changes everything. Because you are not being restricted by any outside influences. You see the abundance in everything. Because once you witness the limitlessness on extremely transformative ways, in extremely transformative ways, where you see from that eagle's eye view, you're no longer swayed by, the traumas or drama that could be surrounding you. You're more like in observation mode and witnessing it and not being emotionally drawn into it. Because you understand that there is opportunity for an imbalance in energy to be balanced through you, and your perception of it matters. So if you're witnessing it in a non-emotionally responsive way, but you are heartfelt in your insight of perceiving what is happening in a loving way, then you're helping yourself grow by not being attached to judging things right away, right? I mean, that's what we're used to doing, and that's not getting us very far in being able to free ourselves, in order to free ourselves from the burdens of our own mind, right? And I speak of that often. So again, self-reflection, anything that is spoken through my lips is always going to be in congruence of inviting that self-reflection moment to see yourself expand, because you're already that which is expansive. It's just your awareness of it. You're already there, but you're blinded by not being able to see it. So our ability to self-reflect in a non-judgmental way will free us from the burdens of our own mind, from our own stresses, from our own worries, from our own limitations, because we will no longer see that it was about being a victim in the story of your life in any way, right? You understand that exploring the sensation of what it means to be a victim doesn't mean that you weren't placed there to discover a gift you may have, to balance out the energy between the polarity of the innocent, receiving attacks from a perpetrator, right? So in this scenario of standard victim situation, or not standard, but and for example, you have a perpetrator, and a perpetrator is, you're the recipient of the perpetrator's act. Whatever which way you feel like a victim. So it plays out for us to be able to transmute that energy. We do have the capacity to be able to see through what it means to be a victim. You may be a victim. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, your human rights might be violated in some way, shape, or form, or multiple ways. You may be, betrayed by many close people in your life. Or, whatever level of victimization you may be placed yourself in, whatever situational experiences you are or have gone through before, or could in the future. Maybe you were there just so that you could learn what it means to balance the energy out and not be attached to the emotional response you may have from a traumatic situation. Because being a victim, experiencing either being the attacker and making someone else a victim, or you are the sorry about that. Or you're the attackee, right? So either way, you're involved in an experiential exposure of what it means to be a victim. And so, or, experiencing victimization, because then later, karmically, the person that's doing the attacking, karmically, they're going to receive the same energy that they put out later if they don't learn the lesson before it responds to them, right? And typically that's how we learn the lessons, is that we actually get kicked in the face. And then we have to pay attention to it, because that's a pretty powerful kick in the face sometimes when we feel like a victim. And so you'll move through so many different emotional responses to what it's like to be a victim, right? And then you build a really good relationship with your ego, because your ego has this, that fight or flight response. It's a fight or flight response. We're constantly fight or flighting with our responses through our ego, because it's so time oriented. It's the ego in us that is all time oriented, so attached to trying to have some level of control over time. So nonetheless, building a better relationship with your soul allows you to be able to build a better relationship with your ego, and that's your higher self, your lower self, your balance, your inner balance. So in order to really look at situations as an opportunity to build your skills in balancing out energy, becoming a master at, alchemizing energy and changing it into a beautiful combination of balance and harmony between the polarities. And I had mentioned this before on another platform, where that finding that zero point in yourself. When you explore more of all that you are, and seeing the vast, limitless expression that you truly are, you'll start opening up doors of perspectives that you may have not seen before, to developing these skills of always being open to more and more discovery of self. And there's no limit to you. So your discovery of self is limitless. Don't feel like it's like, okay, so this is a journey that I begin and end, and I, if I can do it in 2 years or 3 years and really get to know me, know my soul. It's funny. But no, it's you'll never go back. See, 2022, as I said that, you'll never go back. Once you now expand more into higher and higher perceptions of self and are understanding the flow of how that's going to ever evolve throughout your life. It's a beautiful thing. And you get excited to be able to, authentically view yourself in a non-judgmental way, but in the truest form. You're not objectively viewing yourself. You are just observing yourself and your responses. Are there any automatic response systems that are at play in any given situation or experience that is based off of a trauma, that is a trauma response? And I mentioned that last night too, being self-reflective in our decisions based off fear. Every single day we're making decisions that are influenced by some sort of fear, and fear is all part of the polar opposite of love. Fear is the polar opposite of love. So, okay, so this whole experience is about polar opposites. And I think that many of us came here to learn how to master energy, because there's a lot of imbalances in energy that surround us. But we are imbalanced ourselves, so we have to really, really work to create from an authentic, organic way to balance out energy. You just have to become so extremely familiar with your own energy that anytime that you have an outer what am I looking at over there? Oh, I'm sorry, the camera just keeps blurring in and out. So what was I saying now? Just had a couple different thoughts there. Yeah. Our self-reflection and fear, identifying fear. It's really like, it's hard to describe sometimes, but it's like you got to find that like driving force to make you want to do it. And a lot of times pain makes us want to pay attention to ourselves. Finally, after we've driven ourselves into the ground by having toxic people, toxic situations, toxic, whatever it may be. And the toxicity isn't anything to judge. It's just the polar opposite of the higher vibrational frequency experience through people, places, things. You've got the lower, which is looked at as toxic, but through that toxic, quote unquote, experience, you're learning how to balance the energy. That's the idea. It's not becoming attached to going through a whole bunch of trauma throughout your life. No, because then you feel like a victim and you're stuck and you can't expand. Expansion happens when you heal the victim in you. Does it mean that you weren't the recipient of a perpetrator's act of which you did not deserve? Even if you have the complete right to be viewed is a quote-unquote victim, right? That victim situation and experience happened so you can learn how to balance that energy out. That's how you heal being a victim entirely, by being able to balance that energy out. The polar opposite of love. Because you can only be a victim if you're judging something. Judging you or judging the situation. There's got to be some level of judgment, which 9 times out of 10 the judgment is based off of some sort of fear program. So it stems back and stems back and stems back and stems back. But really, it just all returns to something that is relatable to some level and some frequency of fear. There is numerous frequencies of fear running through our energetic field every single day. Hence why we're constantly making decisions and taking action on thoughts based through fear. So that's keeping us trapped. That's all that is. That identification and that awareness to understanding how fear is limiting you and not allowing you to see the endless limitlessness of your own essence, of your pure essence. It's becoming so extremely familiar with your own pure essence, and any other energy outside of yourself is an opportunity for you to see if there is an imbalance that is allowing you to be able to assist in your skills of balancing out energy, because this whole experience is based off of polarity, seemingly polarity. From our perspective, it looks like there is an opportunity for the polarity to even exist because we're experiencing it firsthand. And those skills are skills that we forgot we had. But I believe that we are here to become made aware of some things that are important, like ourselves. And to come to the realization that you are kind of a big deal, and that that's a really important step in our human evolutionary growth. Like, we really, really need to focus on the right things instead of keeping us trapped in this hamster wheel of repeating endless karmic cycles. We're not understanding that we are masters at energy balancing, and we're like totally failing ourselves until we drive ourselves into the ground so far, some way, shape, or form, either through your intentions or through somebody else's, intentions around you. You may be having your head thrown into the ground for whatever reason, but usually it's a heartbreaking or an extremely emotionally difficult situation where we don't pay attention to ourselves in the way that we should. So anyway, our soul doesn't judge what experience is required for you to actually pay attention to soul. So that's the whole goal. Like, the soul wants to become so familiar with that is the identity of which that you express yourself through. It's no longer limited to the earthly plane. It's like eternal. It's like you're of the earthly plane, but you're in the earthly plane, but you're not of it. That level of identity to express yourself in all that you are. That's one way to word it. Many different ways to word it. It's always being able to see the limitlessness through your perspectives. You're being able to see the limitless perspectives of how you could see yourself, and understand that that's an ever-evolving growth scenario. 3003. And we all have that same thread of desire, which is, I want to be happy. I just want to be happy, right? And how do we get there? Well, we really need to shift into higher and higher perspectives, because just because we desire being happy doesn't mean that we have to control situations outside of ourselves or try to manipulate situations outside of ourselves to be able to experience happiness. No, we find the happiness within in order to feel happy, no matter what is appearing in your immediate environment. So you can be experiencing the exact same crappy experiences if you're saying that you're experiencing crappy experiences, per se, right? If you're that one who identifies with that experience, you've gone through a lot of hard times, you've gone through a lot of, whatever it may be, whatever struggles, whatever challenges that you have judged as something that has brought you down and it would not make you happy. Like you're not dependent upon your outer experience to produce that happiness. You find that happiness within. You're no longer codependent upon anything outside of yourself. You're completely independent with your levels of being able to feel vibrationally balanced. When you're no longer judging yourself. And you're removing the fear perspective of not loving. Like, that's the only thing that can come to my perceptual awareness at this time, is the opposite of fear is love. And because we're oftentimes not making decisions based off love through our heart space, we're using way too much of our logical mind and not connecting with our heart space, and we're getting lost in this like hamster wheel cycle of like not being aware of what's going on. It's all about energy. It's all about energy. It's not getting caught up in the story. It's seeing how you can really grow through transmuting that imbalance. You're experiencing a major imbalance for a reason. It's catching your attention. Whatever injustice you may think you might have experienced throughout your life and or experiencing now, even if it could be deemed as an injustice or not, it is a sensation of it. How do you bring justice to an injustice? It's by finding that 0-point field and not being judgmental on either end of the spectrum. You're able to completely balance both energies, seeing that the polar opposite of everything is necessary for you to grow. It's an inner journey that is then reflected in many different ways outside of you. You can take the exact same situations and experiences that you've gone through, but now see how it was always there to help you. You completely are detaching from any trauma response when you see the gift of how everything is presented to you for your own personal growth. You see past the trauma response. You're no longer emotionally swayed as much. It's a progressional thing. You're no longer swayed, right? You get to that point where you're just free from the fear or the burdens of what may or may not happen. You don't have control of what may or may not happen, but you have complete control over your own energy field, over your own responses. And I did want to actually have more time talking about, and expanding upon our specific responses. But giving examples of how fear wants to be seen. Fear wants to be seen, but yet we fear, facing fear. We're like, oh, fear, oh, stay away. We fear facing fear. Oh man, how are we ever going to get there if we fear facing fear? Well, there's different ways to look at it, and you're not so fearful about it anymore. You see the expansiveness of how fear just wants to be noticed. Doesn't want to be judged as an emotional response to it. We can move past that. Fear is a tool. Fear is provided to us as a tool to be able to see the polar opposite of love more clearly. More clearly. Because love is fearless. It's completely absent fear. And sometimes people relate to love having a lot of fear. They're fearful of love. They don't understand that their fear of love is just a trauma response that was built off of a situation where they got their heart hurt, and since their heart got hurt, subconsciously they built up a trauma response where they protect their heart so they don't allow themselves to love fully because they're scared that their heart will get broken again. So that doesn't allow you to live, in your limitless potential. It's seeing your responses to things in a whole new way. And it's just because we usually have these trauma responses to things that we're not even aware of. We're just like, oh yeah, I've always been like that, or whatever it may be. But again, it's just being open to the idea of self-reflection, open to the idea of investing time into self-reflection, because self-reflection, there's nothing more important than you. You are the most important person to experience your life. Every single one of us are just that. Your existence, your mere existence, your energy is needed. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be breathing. So just the way that you are, exactly the way that you are, no matter how messed up you think you may or may not be, your value is equal to all of infinity. And if you don't see yourself in that limitless perspective of infinity, if you don't see yourself vibrating at a frequency of which that could see more and more and more of what it may mean to live in love, live a life filled with pure unconditional love, absent fear in all areas of our life, completely absent fear, completely exiting anything that has to do with related to fear, which includes judgment and victimization, clearing all of that out in a way that's going to be able to help us expand beyond our imagination, far beyond our own imagination. There's no limit to you. So how far can your imagination go to be able to perceive that? Because the logical mind sure can't. Growing far, far, far beyond what you thought was humanly possible, and that's the whole idea, is to test the boundaries of what we may think is human potentiality. What is that? What does it mean? What does it look like? What does it mean to test the boundaries of human potential? Does that mean that we have to really see our abundant self in order to be able to experience a world reality of abundance? Well, that's pretty much right on the money, because it's as within, so without. It's just part of the universal law experiential of our energetic exchange, of which the life that is supporting our life. And we, living on planet Earth, that Earth's energy and your energy, of which together combined, right? So, understanding more on a broader scale of what could bring more fulfillment in our earthly experience. And really, it's just a commonality. Again, I mentioned before, I just want to be happy. Is that too much to ask? I heard someone say, is that too much to ask? I just want to be happy. Like, that's all I want. Am I asking too much? Come on now. And then we, want to blame other things outside of us that are causing us not to be happy, and we're losing the whole point. It's not that anything outside of you is going to change one bit. What changes is inside of you. And you'll no longer look at the things outside of you the same ever again. You won't judge it. You'll understand that you have no control over the things that are happening outside of you, but you have control over your response to it. And how do you expand in your response to things? It's being open to seeing the truth within limitless perspectives. Look, you are a limitless expression of you. That means that there's limitless perspectives to look at things in order to be able to see the growth in it. Whatever is appearing before you is perfectly fine in its form. It's just your judgment of it that is skewing it and not allowing you to gain from it. Instead, feeling like you're getting hurt from it. And you're weakened by your outer experiences. No, you're experiencing it because it's a challenge of which that you can take on. But now it's a responsible... But now, you're just taking complete accountability and responsibility over your own energy field. You are now no longer allowing outer things to affect you in a way that's going to take from your energy field. You now know how to alchemize energy that may be coming at you in a lower frequency that you can shift into balancing it out into the opposite frequency. To use the opposite frequency and or the what is the word? The similar frequency, like tuning into the same frequency, but on the polar opposite end. Like, it just all balances all out. That 0-point field in every situation exists. There's a polarity to everything. Up and down, left and right, hot and cold, and everything. Like, it just is our life. Our life is all opposites. And then there's like third options, right? Super, super important to be able to always see that third option, because that's more like the 0-point field. I could do this or that, or I could, go this way or that way, or I could, what's the 0-point field offer? It offers you endless perspectives. Endless perspective. When you're no longer like charged by one way or the other. Yeah, it's a complete independence of your own energy field, knowing that you have that responsibility to yourself. A lot of us don't even know that that's something to pay attention to. Like, we're just like, hey, living life or whatever, just, going with the flow, doing the best you can, right? Have no idea how important it is to actually invest time in yourself in a whole new way. A brand new spanking way. A way that's never been done before. Confirmation with that movie, the windmill moving. So, yes, believe in your ability to be able to shift into new perspectives. Just allow yourself, to have a green light on believing in yourself to see newer perspectives. At least glimpse into them. You don't have to, again, shift your belief. I don't want to confuse the word belief usage in that sentence. Your belief is in yourself, not in shifting your beliefs. Now, if you are willing to see things in a new perspective, it may enlighten your current beliefs, of which your current belief system may be limiting you in some way, shape, or form. So by paying attention to your perspectives, you'll be able to reveal to yourself maybe different belief systems that are now outdated and are ready for you to be able to expand upon, which are going to allow you to see more of your limitless potential, your limitless self, your amazing light code frequency, whatever your harmonic frequency balance. Like everybody has a song. I was mentioning that too. What song is your soul playing at? What frequency, what harmonic balance do you have? And you can create that synergistic connection between the polarity between your higher self, lower self, right? It's really, really building upon the 0 point field for all that you are. Once you see your infinite potential within you, it is impossible not to see the infinite potential in others, which is why I have this, very strong desire to want to share with people how kind of important they are, because they don't have a clue. Like, there's so many people walking around that have no clue how amazing they are. How absolutely amazing. Amazing. Just by breathing. Like, gosh, if we could only see our value through our breath, like how important each breath is, just by you breathing, no matter what thoughts you have, no matter what actions you have or haven't taken, or whatever the heck are you doing. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're making good thoughts, bad thoughts, medium thoughts. Again, like that is not your identity. Like, you see beyond the limitation of what you thought you were once limited to. And you can really get pure enjoyment out of expanding your perception beyond what you ever thought was possible. You start seeing that we do have that responsibility to ourselves. We really start seeing that. I mean, we owe it to ourselves. And I keep saying that, 47. Like, I keep saying that. We do owe it to ourselves. The ego always wants to give an excuse like, oh, I don't have time for myself. I'm just too busy doing this and doing that. Ego's like, wins again. So much for you being able to invest time in yourself in a brand new way. Ego's all about time. Ego wants to know how long it's going to take for you to invest in yourself so that you can get on with your life. Ego's like, how much time do we got for this? Because so far, I've never had time to invest in myself. Your ego says, maybe I'll do things that I like to do, but not like the kind of investment in self that is really necessary. And the kind of investment we need to make in ourselves is building and strengthening our bond with all that we are, including our ego. Befriending our own ego and getting familiar with your soul's expression and form and what that means to you. And you'll be able to see how beautiful you are in so many different ways. Like, it's not like you don't now, but like, your whole like worldview shifts as soon as you invest time in yourself and start seeing how you don't have to live in a trauma response program where you feel like a victim in any way, shape, or form. When you feel like a victim, you're not able to see how you can master that energy. If you feel like you were done wrong as a child, then you have a trauma response that is in existence, that is keeping that lower vibrational frequency attachment to the experience and not seeing how you can alchemize that energy. transmute it, alchemize it, shift it into a brand new experience based on what lessons you can learn from it, because that is a trauma, so that it can help you become wiser about why you chose to experience that hardship in the first place. It is an unconscious or subconscious and or soul contract or whatever agreement has been made. I'd wholeheartedly believe that there's challenges that we go through that sometimes we don't think we can handle, but we can always handle them. We don't believe in ourselves to be able to make the right decisions because we're so attached to fear. As soon as you have that ability to be able to release a fear program from your system, and again, I call it in reference to like a program, but it's more like a it's a heavy influence, a heavy weight and burden on not seeing yourself for all that you are. And it's quite important that we start expanding into seeing ourselves for all that we are outside of our ego. Our ego has such a desire to want to claim ownership of knowing thyself, but it's not about claiming ownership of knowing thyself. That's not what expansiveness is. That's not what infinite expression of self is. That's not what limitless versions of self is. It's not attached to anything. There is no limit to your identity. So why stop at I already know thyself? Because you're not allowing yourself to see more of yourself. That's for people that want to object to saying, hey, I already know myself, I already know this time of myself, I already know all this shit. Oh, whoops, all this stuff. I hear people's ego say that, because the ego is so afraid of being revealed for any accountability. Because once you start self-reflecting, you have to take complete accountability for the things that have happened in your life in a brand new way, right? A monumental way. You're no longer attached to the pain or trauma of the experience anymore. And that frees you. It literally frees you. And you now see how you can heal yourself. Through that awareness of balancing out that energy in a whole new way. You have to have your heart has to be wide open in order to balance that energy. You cannot balance that energy by tricking yourself that you're balancing it out. It doesn't work that way. Your heart has to be wide open. And not vulnerable, that's just it. There's automatic vulnerability with love, right? But then when you integrate it, it's really not vulnerable in the first place. You just see the gift that it is more than anything. And so all is love and love is all, is what came through last night. All is love and love is all. That's the most freeing expression of my own interpretation, understanding how everything is working in perfect divine order at all times. No matter how chaotic, no matter how crazy it is, it's in the order that it needs to be in, so that balance can be had, balance can be made. And my discovery and my ability to be able to balance energy out naturally now that I balance myself. And again, you find that center point more clearly, a revelation to self with the centeredness that you are. Once you really understand that everything outside of you is just teaching you lessons. It's not meant to hurt you and abuse you. It's teaching you something that's valuable. it must be extremely valuable if it's really painful. And I can definitely speak upon things that want to help raise your awareness to all that you are. Because raising your awareness to all that you are is vitally important to your exploration of being able to have, complete liberation. Like, I mean, it just seems like way too dreamy and way too far-fetched to actually be able to manage hardships and challenges in a way that doesn't bring your energy down in any way. You're able to experience it and benefit from it, and then learn how to balance that energy between the polarity and not get swept up into the emotional response that it's creating. Yes, there is an emotional charge to it. That's so that it's being brought to your awareness. Your emotions are your little antennas to scoping out lessons, difficult soul growth lessons. And you allow that emotion to guide you before it actually swallows you up into being a victim and or having, that trauma response. But that's part of what really wants to come through a lot, is just paying attention to our responses. Through just paying attention to us. Like, if you're so focused on your response, then that's almost as if you're caring about how the other person is going to take you. So then you want to manipulate the energy so that they can take you in a way that you think that is welcoming to you. Like, all of that is way too much work. All you got to do is focus on yourself. And nothing outside of you can influence your perception of how expansive you against everything it really is. And other people are just mirrors of you in another energetic form. So we see the truth in our expansive potential when we see how expansive we really are. And that is the best, way that I could word what has been wanting to be spoken. 5757. And I'll leave you with that. One day, people. One day, humans that are breathing, that are so valuable to this whole experience. Gosh, I'm going to end with, it is just mind-blowing how important everyone is, because we all play a role in the big picture. And so we all hold equal value, no matter how many, people know us or don't know us or like us or don't like us. That doesn't play any role about your value. Just because you're breathing, you hold significant value. Significant, like infinite value. Infinite value. So it's important that you kind of take a moment to invest in yourself and think about, hey, what decisions am I making based off fear every single day, Hey, just place my awareness on it, because, hey, all it takes is awareness. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Or you can forget about it, but you're now more self-aware because you put your awareness on it. So I'll leave you with that, you beautiful, magnanimous souls. Namaste.